Welcome back. The time is 13 minutes past 8, and you still tuned in to News and Views right here on your home of humanitarian journalism, Salam Media. In a bit, we'll be joined by award-winning investigative journalist Kevin Bloom, who's I think a really explosive piece on the Daily Maverick was I think really interesting to read. It's a really brilliant article that almost exposes the paradox at the heart of Israel's geopolitical strategy, the embrace of European anti-Semites as allies, while simultaneously positioning itself as the protective global jury. Bloom's reporting reveals how Zionist leaders are fulfilling Theodore Herzl's century-old prophecy about anti-Semites becoming Israel's most dependable friends, even as Netanyahu's government oversees what human rights organizations the world over describe as ethnic cleansing, and I think at this point, a genocide out in Gaza. And yeah, we're going to be touching on that a bit with Kevin, who's joining us via telephone. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning, and looking forward to an interesting conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me on.
Mm. Your article, as I was going through it, I was reading it. It almost painted, I think, a vivid picture of the complexities surrounding the recent, anti-Semitism conference in Israel. What initially compelled you, to write this piece, to investigate this particular event and some of its implications?
Well, I've been covering what's been going on in Gaza since October of 2023, and I've been covering it from a personal as well as a journalistic perspective. 90% of my journalistic focus has been on this since it started. I'm Jewish. I'm an anti-Zionist Jew. I didn't grow up an anti-Zionist Jew. I was a young Zionist. And the process of deconditioning and actually seeing the history for what it was goes back a long time with me. And as horrific as the attacks on the 7th of October were, and I have family in Israel, and they were horrific, I knew, and many people knew, that the response was going to be orders and orders and orders of magnitude worse. That there was going to be a revenge campaign that almost certainly was going to breach many of the post-World War II conventions that were signed as a direct result of the Holocaust. And Israel, the state that you're taught is set up as a response to the Holocaust. We just terrified that where they made historians, educators, journalists watching, and then from sort of November, December of 23 and into 24, we started to see evidence that of some real war crimes, and through last year, some of the major Israeli.
Kevin, we're just losing you there slightly. If you can just move around, because I think you get into some very important details of this conversation, and we're just losing you a bit.
How's this? Can you hear me?
Yes, that's way better.
Okay, so I was just at the point where I was saying that the first half of last year, we started to see some very important Jewish Israeli historians and genocide and Holocaust experts, people who had dedicated their lives to the study of genocide and the Holocaust, started to openly call what was happening in Gaza a genocide. I'm talking of names like Omer Bar-Tov and Amos Goldberg, a major international name. Also names like Ilan Pape, the Israeli historian, Naomi Klein, Gabo Mate, Holocaust survivor himself. And I've been very careful through the series of articles I've written for Daily Maverick to point out that I am Jewish and to quote major Jewish figures in my pieces. And these are the figures that I've just mentioned. Because I think what needs to be highlighted and emphasized is that there's a very strong and strident anti-Zionist, more than a movement. It's the anti-Zionist part of the journey, and we're basically saying that this conflation of anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism is absolute nonsense, and it's murderous nonsense. I've been called an anti-Semite by members of my own family for writing this. This is how insidious this. So to come back to your question, when I then in late March of 25, it was a couple of weeks ago, that the Israeli government is holding an anti-Semitism conference under the auspices of its diaspora affairs minister, Avichai Chikli, who's in Netanyahu's cabinet. And so when Israel holds an anti-Semitism conference, always, and Israel's, this is part of what Israel tells you, as a young Jew growing up in the diaspora, that Israel is there to protect you from anti-Semitism. But here what happens in this bizarre new world we live in, where it does seem that Israel is committing a genocide. It does seem, according to the terms of the Genocide Convention, and we can get into that, and how watertight South Africa's case is. It does seem a genocide is going on. And in this bizarre and horrific world we're living in, an anti-Semitism conference kicks off under the auspices of the Israeli government in Israel, which comes close to being cancelled at the last minute because they invited too many anti-Semites to speak. It's bizarre. And this is exactly what happened. They invited members of the European far-right political parties, the granddaughter of Jean-Marie Le Pen, a known anti-Semite, members of Orban's party in Hungary, members of the far-right in Sweden. So what happens is Jonathan Greenblatt on the 18th of March says he says he needs to pull out. Now Greenblatt is the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, and this is the major organization for the combating of anti-Semitism in the United States. And he pulls out, which forces the Israelis to compromise. And their compromise is the Israeli president, Isaac Herzog, says he'll host an event at his house and he won't invite the far right. He doesn't say he's going to kick the far right out. He's going to have an event and invite the far right, which seems to be the compromise that lets you go forward. But here's the other thing about Greenblatt, is Greenblatt defended Elon Musk's Nazi salute. You had German Jews. You had Jewish historians. You had top-level academics whose expertise was the Nazi Party, saying that this is the classic Sich Heil split. That is what Elon Musk had done. But the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, calls it an awkward gesture. Ben Shapiro, one of the United States' most influential pro-Israel voices, who runs his own media network called Daily Wire, and the Ben Shapiro show, came out and said it's ridiculous that was a Nazi salute because Elon Musk had visited Auschwitz with him the year before. But the rest of the world is looking at this and thinking it's a Nazi salute, so what's going on? What's actually going on is this anti-Semitism conference is not about anti-Semitism at all. It's about defending Israel against its critics while it carries on its ethnic cleansing / genocidal campaign in Gaza. That's what it's about. And then into this sickening attempt at a whitewash and a cover-up of major atrocities comes in the South African activist groups, AfriForum and Solidarity. Now, after this article that I've just published, and the one I published before, which looks at algorithms on X and specifically, which is owned by Elon Musk, amplify the voices of the far right. They amplify race baiting and they amplify rage baiting. We've got to ask ourselves in South Africa, how come we're back in this cauldron of real racial animosity when it wasn't there before? This is manufactured. And it's manufactured because of our case at the ICJ.
True.
The real issue of the Trump administration with South Africa is our case at the International Court of Justice against Israel. And the likes of Kali Krill and the likes of Ernst Ruetz are being used and manipulated by some very sophisticated Zionists. And what they're doing is they're saying this country is racist itself. It's racist towards its white people. And it's amplifying voices from the extreme that are arguing that there's a campaign of violence that's directly targeted at them and them alone, where this has never been independently verified based on our murder statistics. It just hasn't been. So then you've got Elon Musk tweeting about a white genocide. Now, neither AfriForum nor Solidarity has said this, and they've sued people who have said that they've said this. But Elon Musk is saying this. And Elon Musk's father is saying this. And when Joel Pollak last week tweets, and Joel Pollak is the editor of Breitbart News. He's a former South African who's been living in the States for a long time. Breitbart News is Steve Bannon's outfit, one of Trump's close allies in Trump's first term. And Breitbart News is known as a far-right extreme conservative outlet. This is the editor at large. His name's Joel Pollak. Some thought he was going to be the U.S. ambassador to South Africa, but he was Tony Leon's speechwriter back in the day. And he did work for the DA, I think around 20 years ago. And my colleague, Serial Haffiji, has just done an excellent podcast interview with him, which I would urge everyone to listen to. But he tweets last week that South Africa that Israel should take South Africa to the ICJ for the song "Kill the Buck, Kill the Farmer" because it's incitement to genocide. Now it becomes obvious what's going on. At the same time that happens, Ernst Ruetz gets invited on Ben Shapiro's show in the U.S. And what they speak about, what Ben Shapiro says, is that there's been a ban. He says there's sort of been a ban publicly on saying any negative things about the government of South Africa after 1994, because if you do so, you would be accused of supporting apartheid. Now that, for a South African journalist, is the most egregious lie. So many of us over the last 30 years have, at sometimes like great, cost to our personal relationships and sometimes even to our safety, the arms deal, all the aspects of state capture, all the general corruption. I'm one of those journalists myself. I've been writing about David Mabuza and the land claim scam for years. To hear Ben Shapiro say you never hear a negative word about, what are you talking about, buddy? But what he's talking about is, and what he's doing, is he's deflecting from the actual genocide. That's what's going on. That's how insidious it is. And so that was the thrust of my piece yesterday. And I have to say, it drew some very, very concerning hatred, backlash from people I consider white supremacists. And it was, yeah. And these voices have been amplified and they're still in the vast minority, these voices, but they're getting amplified. And this is the danger.
Kevin, I want us to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to just focus, I think, on some of the historical parallels that you drew in the opening of that article, where you opened with Theodore Hell's diary entry predicting anti-Semites becoming Zionism's allies, essentially, and again bring it back to that guest list at Israel's 2025 anti-Semitism conference. Would you say we are witnessing, the full realization of Hell's vision? Because it's almost happening real time, right in front of our eyes. And also, again, just expand a bit on that connection with South Africa again. But we'll touch on those after the short break.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, yet many children go to school hungry because of poverty. Penny Appeal South Africa's Breakfast Club aims to get a warm, hearty meal to underprivileged children so they can spend their day prospering in their schoolwork. Help feed a needy learner for only 5 Rand a day, or 150 Rand a month. Or visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can donate. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, buckies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Abu Hurairah narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, "In black seed there is a healing for every disease except death." This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the Tib Black Seed range. Black seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the Tib Black Seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust Tib Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views right here on Salam Media, and we're having a really interesting and insightful conversation with award-winning investigative journalist Kevin Bloom, whose explosive recent piece almost exposes the shocking paradox at the heart of Israel's geopolitical strategy, the embrace of European anti-Semites as allies, while simultaneously positioning itself as the protector of global Jewry, if we can put it that way. And I think the report on that article reveals just how Zionist leaders are fulfilling Theodore Herzl's century-old prophecy about anti-Semites becoming Israel's most dependable friends, even as Netanyahu's government oversees what human rights organizations worldwide have described as ethnic cleansing in Gaza. Kevin, thank you so much for staying with us. Before we went on that short break, I wanted to chat, briefly on I think that opening point in your article, where you open with a Theodore Herzl's diary entry predicting anti-Semites becoming Zionism's biggest allies. Are we, witnessing the full realization of that vision in real time? Is it happening? And ultimately, what are the consequences thereof?
So I believe we are. I wrote a piece last year. I'd visited Berlin, and I spent a week going to the major media houses in Berlin, and specifically the largest media company in Europe, which is the Axel Springer media company, and at its headquarters in Berlin, you've got an Israeli flag on a pole. They're not hiding, or they're not even pretending to be objective in the German media. And this is something that you'll find across German politics too. So the far right wing ADL, or Alternative for Germany, which has made huge inroads into German politics in the last 5 years, and are major contenders, for the national government. These guys are noted anti-Semites, and they have inherited the mantle from, according to many Germans, from the Nazi Party itself. Now, they support the state of Israel. They fully support Benjamin Netanyahu, and they are very much aligned with the far-right parties across Europe. The surge of the far right is no accident. It's a response to what it sees as the threat of Islamism, and to what it sees as a clash of civilizations. And in this conception of a coming global war that they seem to be preparing for and instigating, and I'm not saying that there isn't a huge influx of Muslims into these countries. There are, and there are clashes, but it suits the far right, and it suits the far right's agenda to amplify this. And again, this is completely amplified by social media, and this narrative is completely amplified to the extent that the difference between virtual reality and reality becomes conflated. Into this mix come the Zionists, who are seen as, by America, as being on the front line of the fight against Islamism. So what you essentially have here are the extremes fighting the extremes. You have the extreme Jews, who are the Zionists, and you have the extreme Islamists, who happen to be Hamas or Hezbollah or whatever militant organization comes out of Islam. And the center, which is far vaster, which doesn't want any of this, which in this country, there have never historically been any issues or incidents between Jews and Muslims. And now all of a sudden, because of the intervention of faith actors on both sides, but all of a sudden we have clashes between Jews and Muslims, and that happens in Cape Town. It happens on the Sea Point Promenade, and this is the consequence of it. And when to come back to Theodore Herzl saying one day the allies of the Jewish state will be the anti-Semites, this is happening, and this is why it's happening. And we need to push back against it. The moderate center that doesn't want this, that actually sees humanity and doesn't see religion, needs to push back. But unfortunately, our voices aren't as loud as the others.
Kevin, I wanna bring it closer to home now. As a South African, we are seeing, I think, as you mentioned, the dirtying of South Africa's image the world over. This almost, systematic effort, out of the United States, out of a lot of, these European, sympathizers and apartheid apologists, the attack on South Africa. We've seen just internally also groups like AfriForum and how as you mentioned, this newfound, racist conversations that are happening, particularly online, then the response would be, how do we respond to it? How do we respond to this new state of affairs that seems to take South Africa 10, 15, 30 years back after so much hard work has been done?
Well, I think what we need to do is we need to expose that AfriForum and Solidarity are basically being used as useful idiots by some really powerful global forces. And we can say not in our country and not in our name in South Africa. And again, the vast majority of us, I believe, are of that mindset. We know what it's like to come out on the other end. And we keep on choosing, time and again, calm and relative peace and stability with each other in this country that has 11 official languages and one of the most progressive constitutions in the world. And fundamentally, yes, we have our problems. But from a country that we were the world champions of entrenched racism up until 1994. And, concepts like the Rainbow Nation and what Madiba brought in and what that first government of national unity actually was, we need to remember, and I think many of us do, but we need to remember more vocally what it is that this country stands for. And I think we will prevail because this information is now coming to light. I don't think we're idiots in South Africa. And we need to remember that amongst the global south, all of the countries in Africa, most of the countries in Asia, most of the countries in South America, look to us as, the moral leaders in this and the rightful ones, because, and see us as the right ones to take the case to the ICJ. When I was in Germany, I was there with a group of investigative journalists from around Africa, from Tanzania, from Kenya, from Mozambique, from Uganda, and they were all like, yay, South Africa. And the parts of the world that are turning against us, the Trump administration, the right-wing white racists, let's call them what they are, in America have an issue with us. But the rest of the world, quite the opposite. And we need to keep on bringing the focus back there. And that's certainly what I've been doing at Daily Maverick. And it's what, some major global voices have been doing too. Yanis Varoufakis, the former Prime Minister of Greece, wrote an amazing piece in the Mail and Guardian. It got published in the Mail and Guardian 2-3 weeks ago, saying exactly that, saying South Africa needs to hold firm. The global left is looking to us. And when we talk about left and right, basically, the left are people who believe in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. In South Africa, we believe in diversity. We believe in equality. We believe in inclusivity. We believe that climate change is happening. We're not, that's what we stand for. The vast majority of it. The vast majority. And this is why they're going after us. But we need to be more vocal about those beliefs, because we're on the front lines. And I think we can be proud of what our government is doing.
Definitely. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us and, for the incredible work that you're doing. I think that messaging that you're pointing out really needs to be louder than ever. I think we are at our crossroads. Never in our history have we been in this situation before. And it's going to be a true test, to South Africa's resilience, as we always say, and for us to show our, true nature of what it means to be South African. So thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. And thank you for an insightful conversation.
Thank you very much for having me on.
There you go. That was Kevin Bloom, award-winning journalist and author. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's going to be a really testing time for South Africa. And I think Kevin makes a really important point that the only response to the only response to this newfound attack, this newfound hate, this newfound, support from some sects of the world to these apartheid apologists who are similarly trying to twist an agenda and obviously trying to discredit South Africa on the international stage. The best way to respond to them is to just by being South African, showing the true nature of who South Africa is, the principles and foundations that our country is built upon, and everything else will just happen as is, because it's so easy to be caught up in the emotions of the day where you stoop as low as the other side, and things are being said that ultimately tarnish the image of the country. Just continue being South Africans and everything will fall into place. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be with you after this.